the exact processes that we use at One Path Network to leverage AI into our own workflow. So I will be, unfortunately, sharing confidential information, probably, to a certain extent, but as our brother Shu'aib Hussein mentioned at the start of the day, it's a day of sharing, and we don't want to hold back. We haven't perfected the AI workflow, but I do believe we've got our finger on the pulse, and we're trying to use it in a way that it elevates and assists us in our own production pipeline. I can imagine everyone here today has their own production workflows that they are familiar with, that they want to leverage AI into. So hopefully some of the learnings that I share with you today can be leveraged into your own production workflows. It requires you to practically take what I'm going to share you and apply it to your own individual brand, page, content style, content personality, whatever you like. It will need that personification from you individually. But today, inshallah, I will be sharing the workflow that One Path Network utilizes. So, the agenda for today's workshop will include why would you want to bring AI into your production workflow, pros and cons, how can you align your AI to your values, the skills that you can equip your AI with to assist you in your organizational table for production, how you can use your data to drive the decisions that AI suggests for you, and 5, how you can use some of the advanced capabilities of AI to generate images, video, graphic elements that you can incorporate into your own style. These are just some of the tools that we use. And lastly, the most essential component of AI, and that is the collaboration, the collaborative aspect, whereby you are able to personalize your individual AI workflow. Alright then, and of course the idea to publish at the end of the day. So Bismillah, why would you want to bring AI into your workflow? I think there's a series of pros and cons that we need to be familiar with before we even head down the route of incorporating AI into our workflow. Some of the positives: it can enhance your human creativity. It can unlock new production capabilities. As our brothers showed us, the Towards Eternity crew, they were able to produce an entire series on the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, leveraging AI, something which would not have been possible a year ago. So it can very well unlock new production capabilities. It significantly reduces production costs, and I can say this firsthand, being a content creator, I know how expensive it can be to capture film, capture videos, capture B-roll, sending out an entire film crew. It can squash this financial burden of production. Hour-long tasks, the mundane tasks that no one wants to do, it can do that for you. It can amplify your existing skills, accelerates the post-production pipeline. And one thing I'm really looking forward to is it enables multilingual reach. I just want to mention that we have Dr. Walid Kadus with us here in the building, inshallah, tomorrow. I believe he will be walking you through the multilingual capabilities of AI. So I won't be covering that here, but it's something which really opens the horizon and extends the horizon of what is possible with your content. You can reach audiences that you would never have perceived in a previous time. But then again, of course, there are a series of limitations that we need to be mindful of. We don't blindly use AI with this blind enthusiasm, with no guardrails. We need to be cognizant of the limitations. It can erode authentic creativity. It lacks emotional intelligence, cultural sensitivities. They can flatten a brand's voice. I mean, you just have to look at the influx of reels on Instagram making fun of ChatGPT, the voice of ChatGPT. That's not how people speak. That's so polished, perfected. That's not human. Yes, sure, you're applying all the rules of what human speech requires, but naturally we make mistakes, we fumble, we flaw, we have ums and ahs. These are human elements that AI erodes. And overuse into predictable patterns. It can be ignorant, cultural sensitive, as we mentioned. It encourages quantity over quality, and I think this is what everyone's promising. This is the promise of AI. You can make 50 pieces of content in 1 month, and it's amazing at face value. But when you think about everything we spoke about today in terms of producing content that is intentional, content that is produced through deliberation, AI can erode this if you're not careful. You will just start throwing out, churning out, literally that's the word they use, churning out AI slop without having that intention that we spoke about earlier today. Oversaturated market with poor content, otherwise known as AI slop, that many people are complaining about today. And lastly, this is a significant risk and limitation you need to take into consideration. It can be incredibly pricey. There's a bunch of videos and tutorials online from some of the most famous AI brands, Hitsfield, for example. They show you this amazing 30-second short film that they made, but they don't tell you that to make something like that would cost you about $400 in terms of the amount of credits required to produce something of that caliber, especially when it comes to the renditions that you have to go over and over again to get rid of all those AI hallucinations and all the mistakes that AI seeps into your production. Anyways, let's begin. You need to understand that AI, Claude, whatever you're using, treat it as a blank canvas. It doesn't know who you are. If you ask it, make me 5 videos about X, Y, Z, it's going to make you 5 videos that are, in all honesty, going to be slop. You need to align it with your values, with your brand, with your personality, with your skill set. And this is something which will take time to familiarize your AI with. I'll actually run you through an example of what we did when it comes to training our AI, our Claude, to OnePath's values. This was a series of us literally uploading every transcript from every video, our brand policy documents, thumbnails, comments on our videos, transcripts from all our videos, the YouTube analytics of what determined a high-performing video. We spent days familiarizing AI with who we are as a brand. Because as we mentioned at the start, it's a blank canvas. It doesn't know who you are. If you ask it to produce your content, it's going to produce you generic AI slop. The more you familiarize your AI with who you are, the better it gets at producing you content that is more aligned with your values. So as I mentioned, it's a long-winded process, but you need to spend your time doing this. I'll give you an example of just some of the this is some of the analytics of OnePath that we had to upload into our AI to familiarize it with who we are. The channel statistics, the format preferences, the hooks that work, that don't work, what topics actually work, what topics don't work. Each one of our different formats, OnePath Network produces multiple formats. So we would have to train our AI to differentiate between the different formats of content that we make, whether it's a historical piece, a documentary piece, a podcast. The more you familiarize the AI with who you are, the better it gets. Okay. And once you do this, you can evolve with the AI as well. So you can ask Claude, for example, ask me a series of open-ended questions so I can better familiarize you with who I am. And once you do this, inshallah, it just gets better at its recommendations. So, another thing you need to be equipping, especially this is in relation to Claude, is skills. If I can get a show of hands, who here is familiar with skills? Claude skills. Okay, a lot of you are alhamdulillah. You need to be training your Claude with the skills that are required to, that are suitable to your workload. So I'll walk you through some of the skills that we have equipped our AI with. So these are some of the skills. Content writing and scripting. This is something you need to be very, very careful with. You can never negate the essential human elements for writing a script. But we treat it as an assistant editor. We give it our style, our personality, the credibility, guardrails that it needs to abide by in every situation, and we would use it to help us with certain skills. For news, we can ask, we equip our AI with the regulations, the principles that are necessary every time we produce news. So we want credible sources. We want images that have references. We want videos that also have references that are shared by reputable news outlets. And these are all baked into the skills that we equip Claude with. So I'll just give you an example. You go to customize, go to skills, and you can add a skill here. So customize, skills. And one of the best ways I would like to create a skill is when I say create with Claude. So you go into here and you create a skill together. This is, I think it's very, very easy to do. But the more you refine this process, the better it becomes at helping you in a selected skill. One of my favorite skills is a YouTube production and growth skill that we use. Sorry, just a second. So as I mentioned, we've familiarized our AI with videos that go well, books that go well, transcripts that go well, and also the thumbnails that go well. And it's completely familiar with some of the decisions that I would be making in the past, so that it can recommend and suggest new suggestions, especially when it comes to marketing a YouTube video. And the way I will do this, I'll literally demonstrate right now. I'll get out of this. I'm going to write use the /YouTube package generator. So this is a complete package that I've made to market our YouTube videos according to our learnings and lessons. On this transcript. So all you have to do is you can go to Premiere Pro once you finish the video. You've got your transcript here. You can export to a text file. Your transcript, and then you upload the transcript, and you say use the YouTube package generator on this transcript, and then it would apply all the learnings that you have baked into it to come up with a suggestion or a series of suggestions that would best direct you to how you can market the video. And I'm going to be very honest when it comes to this. It won't always work the way you want it to work. It won't always give suggestions that work. There is a necessary human component that you cannot remove from the equation. As good as you can train the AI to be equipped with our decision-making process, I personally believe you and we we as human beings are the best equipped to make those decisions. So it's asking me what kind of series does this belong to. I'll identify the series, who are the presenters, and then we'll go ahead and create it. And this is trained to come up with thumbnails that would work on YouTube, title suggestions. Sorry, I'll just finish these. That you can use to market the video. Okay, while we wait for that, let's keep going. So it's also got a real short form finder. So if we have a podcast that was cut into reels, I will upload the full transcript of the podcast, and I'll also upload the selections, the transcripts from those selections into Claude and teach it what kind of reel performs well, so it can identify those emotional moments, those impactful moments, and select them for you. And it becomes really good at this. Last year I did this exact workshop. I recommended a tool, I believe it was called Opus AI, OPUS AI. A lot of people use that. It uses AI to select moments from a podcast, from a long format video that can be cut into shorts. But to be honest, I was using that for a long time, and I felt like it was consistently failing to choose segments that align with my audience. I would rather use something like Claude, which is trained to what you would recommend, and therefore make those suggestions more curated to your liking. So Opus is also a AI platform that you can use to help you with your reels and short forms. This is something really cool as well, an ideation engine. So after feeding our Claude with all our pieces of content, I can also use Claude now to suggest future episodes in the series that will go well. Again, it's not hallucinating, it's not shooting rocks in the dark, it's actually choosing ideas that, based on the data, based on the analytics, will inshallah perform well. So let's go back to our
excuse me, I have a question.
If it's quick, we'll do it, but I think we can leave questions to the end.
It's quick.
Yeah.
So the clips that you picked from the podcast, you picked them yourself, and then you give that to the AI?
Yeah, so for instance, what I'll do, I'll upload the entire. So this is how I made the reel selector skill. I uploaded the entire transcript of the podcast to Claude, and then I also uploaded 3 or 4 shorter transcript selections that we handpicked, that we selected, that also the data proved went well into Claude, and I've also equipped it with the analytics of how well those scripts perform. And it'll do a full breakdown of why those scripts perform well, along with my suggestions and my input as to why I believe those scripts perform well, so that in the future, all you have to do is upload a long podcast or any long form video, and it would identify those reels that would go well. So here we are. Let's watch the Marie video, the Muslims Explored video I made about 3 years ago. And it's automatically getting into the full package. It's making me thumbnail concepts that I've trained it with. Use the reference image of the presenter supplied. I've trained it that YouTube thumbnails do well when there's a presenter dominant in the frame alongside a visual element in the background. So automatically it's jumping onto it. No text, because AI keeps making weird textual elements, so I said no text. Look at that, this is pretty interesting. I found Muslim farmers in the outback, Marine Park, Australia, which is interesting because that's very close to what I actually wrote in the original video that we uploaded. It gives you a full thumbnail that you can use, and I'll go through the thumbnail in detail just a bit later. It also gives a YouTube description. Things like this that you don't want to waste your time writing because you're creative, right? Captions, descriptions, things which don't take away from the substance of what you're making, what you're posting online, the film that you're producing, or the short piece of content. For me, that's where the creativity really shines, in the content itself. Something like a YouTube description, right, throw it in, as long as it's accurate, as long as it's not hallucinating, I'll happily use that. And then it also is trained to developing timestamps, because timestamp chapters and articles and YouTube are also very helpful. And then the SEO. No one wants to write SEO unless they're paying you really well. Okay. So data driven, we spoke about that in detail. Alright. I'm going to be showing you now how we use one of the most popular AI platforms right now, which is Higgsfield, in our workflow. So there's this thing called connectors. Everyone's familiar with connectors, I'm sure. Who is familiar with connectors? Alright, a few of you. Okay. So once you have Claude, you go to customize, and then you have this thing called connectors. So you're basically giving Claude access to control some of your platforms now. We've used it to connect to our Adobe, so it can edit some of our videos, but that is crazy intensive when it comes to credits. It will waste all your credits, and it hasn't even touched your video when it comes to editing. It's a waste of money for now. We don't know how it's going to work. We've connected to our Canva, to designs, Figma, but Higgsfield. Let's talk about Higgsfield. So Higgsfield is this huge new platform which is a complete suite that makes you images, videos, audio. They use it to make short films. Crazy expensive. It can get crazy expensive, but it's very, very, very powerful. So you can connect your Higgsfield to your Claude so that you don't even need to navigate any longer to this. And I'll show you how that works. I'm going to stop typing because I don't need to type. I'm going to speak. Allow. Please use the Higgsfield connector to generate me an image that is suitable for the above script. Use Nano Banana Pro and make the image 4K. So we've connected through the connectors our Higgsfield to our Claude, and it can go take your transcript and start producing you images in real time. And this again is something which will need your input. I'll keep stressing this throughout the workshop. Alright, it's actually giving me suggestions. A youth and a minaret, give me that. But it needs to present it. Let's just hope that this does it without it. Always allow. Once my image must be generated without the image. Generated without the image. So one of the ways that we use this is it can automate B-roll for you. So for instance, if you have a very long story that you've written and that you've presented, and you want B-roll that can be applicable to the video that you've made, you upload your transcript and ask it to come up with 10 images that are suitable for my video that I can use as B-roll overlay. The first generation of images that it comes out with are going to be absolutely trash, right? And I've had this experience. But once you get something to a point that you like, you can refine it, refine it, refine it. You keep on refining it so that it starts setting up guardrails when it makes the images in the future, and sooner or later it's going to be producing you 10 consistent images that are highly suitable for your piece of work. Alright, so that's an image it came up with based on what I've taught it. I'm not happy with that. I wouldn't do it, but I can understand why it would do that, because I've trained it in the past that contrasting images usually work well, so that's what it would have suggested. But then again, I'm just going to keep on reiterating, you have to refine this. Go over it again and again until you get something that you like. That's cool, right? Let's take it further. Turn the image into a video 5 seconds long using Clean 3 so I can use it as B-roll. So that's the next step. You can take your image and turn it into video and use that video as B-roll. Again, it's not going to be something that you like, but soon you can start dictating the styles that you want. The length of the video, the format of the video, and also like the stylistic components of the video. Slow motion, stop motion, animation, handheld. You can incorporate all those into the videos that it generates. And of course, this will take a little bit of time, but it shouldn't take too long. We're going to be stressing this a lot. You're going to have to refine. Every output is iterative. Every output, the thumbnail, the title, the ideation footage, it's going to go through multiple rounds until you get something that you like. And another huge thing that we need to be conscious of is not everyone is receptive to AI today. So there's like, to about a lot, 50 of you here today who are actually interested in incorporating AI into their workflows. But there is a huge, especially where I'm from, Australia, a huge section of the community that isn't receptive at all to AI. So you need to make these decisions yourselves. Is this worthwhile incorporating AI into your workflow, or is it going to make people averse to what you're producing? These are decisions that you have to make. You know your audience, and you need to make those decisions yourself. Okay, so you have an idea that is made through the data that you've supplied. You're able to incorporate that into your production pipeline that suits your style. You're able to use Higgsfield to generate images, stills, and videos that you can use as B-roll. We can generate an entire YouTube package to market our content. We can use reel finders to pull short form clips from the same source material, and of course every step goes through review. So this is the image that's made, a video, sorry. 4K, look, it's not amazing, but you need to see it for what it is. At the start, it's not going to produce you anything great, but once you start refining it, you'll get better and better. Yep. Okay. Give me a second. I'll actually open up something. Clean 3 is one of the video generating platforms. Right. People also need to understand that this space is evolving at a rapid rate. So thing 3 was all buzz, and now there's Seed Dance 2.0, which is like taking over. You can't even differentiate between what is real and what is generated by a prompt, what was captured by a camera and what was literally generated by a few words on a keyboard. So I'm right now I'm actually opening up a real project that we work on. I disconnected it because there's confidential stuff that we don't want to share. Okay, here we go. I'll play for you the So as we know, today is July 11th, it's the Srebrenica genocide. And as I mentioned in my talk previously, that we were able to compile the stories of survivors that lived through the Bosnian genocide, and we got them to come into our studio and tell their stories. So they literally came in about 2 weeks ago, and we had 2 weeks to edit, polish, refine the video. At times I felt like the video was lacking, it needed some form of visual element to make it a bit more interesting. So what I did was come up with animations that we peppered throughout the video. Animations that were not too invasive, they weren't too, overpowering in the video, they weren't overkill, but they were just peppered in, and I'll just show you some of them.
Before the war erupted, I can only remember the happy beginning, carefree, surrounded by family. For a child, that was, it couldn't have been any better.
As a child, I grew up in a village, in a farm. We had a big farm. I used to ride horses, look after the sheep, the cows. Every occasion, we get together, all the family get together, put the land on the spit, enjoy it, spend the time with the families, and it was good. It was good.
I remember traveling a lot with the family, visiting family, spending time. Kids were running around. I remember my cousins, my family, neighbors. We were pretty much kind of good with everyone.
We had a pretty tight community. The larger portion of Geneva back then was the majority were Muslims, together with the Orthodox Serbs and also the Catholic Croatians, which were sort of minority. But overall, we lived in peace.
We used to see.
Some elements I was able to pep in throughout the video to make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more easier to follow along. But if I'm literally opening up the exact chat that we use to generate all these images, and as you can see, it is long-winded until we got it right. It was literally doing, and you can see me screaming at AI. This is way too good. I need to stop speaking to people like that. Alhamdulillah, sorry, I'm screaming much. I'm really turning it off. Thank God there's no union for AI. But I will literally train it until I got things that I actually liked. A style that I was happy with, the negative space, the black borders, things that can actually work. This was terrible, but we only had a week, so I was under the pump. This was perfect. It would hallucinate at times because I believe this was a Korean style of artwork, and it would start putting Koreans into images, and I'm like, this is about Bosnia. I started screaming at it again about not putting people that aren't Bosnian into the video. But alhamdulillah, sooner or later, it was getting them right, and I just kept getting them good, and I could use it. Negative space, it wasn't overly saturated with different elements, it was minimal, and I was able to use it. I personally have seen that many of our followers were not receptive to AI, so I purposely chose to use a style like this, which was minimal. It will depend on your audience. Yes, AI is promising, and it's enticing to just use it relentlessly, but we just need to have those guardrails in place and just use it with that human element. So yeah, that was one case, and as you can see, it was a very, very, very long chat until we got it right. Okay. I wanted to share some final thoughts. But before I do that, I just had something like I wanted to close with, which is outside of the production zone, but something which needs to be mentioned, especially for creatives that are using AI. Did we have any questions? Yeah, questions at the back? Yeah, either of you?
When you're generating several B-roll scenes that you want to look similar, is there anything that needs to be done to make sure that they actually line up stylistically?
Yeah, so literally that whole process right here is me making sure that it lines up stylistically, so that every prompt that it is writing lines up not only with the transcript of the video itself, but also the style that I told it to go after. So I told it I don't want any elements close to the borders, I want lots of negative space, I want minimal artwork, I want it in the style of, I think it's like Korean ink painting, and this is what I want, only Balkan people in the images, and it would keep on including those into future image generations. Yes.
So you kind of have to do it one by one, basically.
No, not one by one. Once you've told it don't do this again, and I'm very stern when I tell it don't do it again, it doesn't do it again, thankfully. Yes?
The genocide video that you just showed, if you had to quantify, before AI, like how many hours that would have taken you to put together versus, with Claude, how would it compare? Staff hours?
You're talking about months of work. Months of work in a couple days. In a couple days. Minimum months of work. Anyone else? Sister at the front.
My question is in using AI as an editing tool
Yes.
in writing.
Yes.
How do you maintain originality?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're using AI in writing, sometimes I feel like can you still claim that you're the one writing it if you're using it as an editing tool?
Yes. I think this is very important. I believe Dr. Walid is going to be covering this in extensive detail tomorrow. Maintaining your authentic voice. Me personally, I love to use AI as an assistant editor. Just find me the gaps in my workshop, find me the gaps in my video, in my content. What is wrong, what's working, give me suggestions. I'll never give full authority to AI because I personally believe it's dry at times. As we mentioned before, people don't speak like that. That's not how we are. We have flaws, we have things that we do that aren't necessarily correct, but we do them anyways, and that's what makes us human. I would not heavily rely on AI for writing, but for suggestions. I met with one academic, he says, I want all my discoveries to be for myself, but I want it to just help me refine the way I present it perhaps, but ultimately, it should come from you. So many times I'll get it to look at a speech that I wanted to say, and I'll say, don't do this, don't do that. I said, no, I don't agree. I want to do this because it's who I am. So you should have full final authority.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. We're speaking of AI simplifying our work, and but when you look at the prompts that you shared,
Yes.
it shows that even those placing in the prompts
Yes.
seem more of qualified people in terms of maybe when it comes to film related or
Yes.
scripting or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have in your team people who already have the human expertise related to that, and it's not just prompts of someone having thoughts and expertise of the language or so that they command the AI? So, and the second question is, at what point does your dependency on AI for the production stop?
It's a huge question. I think that a filmmaker using AI will be leaps and bounds better than an average Joe using AI. I think just by default, the fact that you have that wealth of experience, that wealth of skills, knowledge, and a track record of productions behind your belt, you understand good storytelling, you understand good filmmaking, you're forever going to have an advantage over any average person using AI. And we see that time and time again. Personally, I see AI literally in these final thoughts that I was going to present. It's just a tool. You know, one academic I spoke with, he said that when the camera came out, people were so frightened that this was going to shatter the world of art. Artists had spent years, decades, hundreds of years, centuries, perfecting painting, perfecting the art of capturing reality onto a canvas. And here was this camera which threatened the realm of art and painting and artistry. And he said they were scared, but did the camera destroy art? No, it didn't. Artists still exist, artists still flourish, and they still make amazing works of art that are celebrated across the world. It's a tool, the camera, you know, an average person with a camera will get something okay. But a photographer, someone who's mastered the craft of photography, he'll always have that advantage over anyone else. So the same thing with AI, it's a tool, you use it, you leverage it, you instill it into your production workflow. But ultimately, you, as the content creator, are the professional. You're just using it in that manner. So I think that's very important. Where do we draw the line when we stop using AI? It's a hard question because it's literally like it has these tentacles that are just entering every arena or every component of the filmmaking and content creation journey. There is one thing I wanted to speak about when I close, inshallah. Yes? Other thing?
If you could enhance a little bit more about efficacy of using AI, because you know the workflow might be what you have shared is for Islamic content, but the same workflow can be used for something really negative and negative.
There is an entire workshop panel tomorrow dedicated to your question. I didn't want to incorporate it into this because we won't be able to do it justice. So tomorrow it's going to be discussed in depth, the ethics of AI. And quite frankly, I'm surprised I haven't been called out in the middle of this lecture because people are very, very, very polarized when it comes to the ethics of AI. But not everyone here, right? Safe. Yes. We'll take one or two more questions. I'll repeat.
So two questions. In terms of cost for the one that you just showed.
Yes.
What did that translate into?
Yes. So Higgsfield has a series of packages, and they are just milking your money. They are milking money. They'll give you an unlimited package which lasts for 1 day, and then you have to pay another. It can be anywhere from $70 a month to $1,000 a month. It depends how intensively you're willing to use it, but I'm sure you can make a feature-length film with $10,000. Allah, it will still cost you money.
Have you considered open source image models? Like when?
I haven't seen open source image models that can compete with Seed Dance and Kling and Nano Banana 2. Even I feel like the stuff that you pay for is leaps and bounds more advanced. One last question, inshallah. One last question. Anyone? We have to take someone from this side. Yes.
With the Higgsfield tool that you mentioned before, you mentioned in the context of like images and videos and stuff like that. But I was wondering, does that have the same capability with audio as well? Is that like a separate tool?
The audio is a whole another component. I was shopping in that place across the road, the mall. They were playing AI English tracks in the shop. It was weird. It felt dystopian. It felt weird. But literally, there's Suno AI. Who's heard of Suno AI? It can literally make music tracks. It can even make you vocals only tracks. Like it's kind of like it could be like a remedy to the halal wars that we're having about music. But at the end of the day, it's artificial. They were literally playing Suno AI tracks. I don't know what they were doing with the playlist, but that was crazy. That felt so weird. People are using them. And you can tell that it's AI generated. The voices sound so synthetic, everything about it. But yeah, inshallah. I just wanted to end with some final thoughts. I had to give a talk a week ago about the impact of AI on the realm of arts and artistry and being an artist. I consider all content creators, you know, I use the word lightly, but I do consider content creators artists in one form or another. And I wanted to speak about, does AI threaten art? You know, we spoke about the camera potentially threatening artists around the world. Does AI now threaten artists? And the way I tackled this question was by looking at one of the most famous pieces of art ever made in the entire world. And I asked the people there today, and I'm going to ask you here today, what is the difference between this, the Mona Lisa painted by Leonardo da Vinci in the 1500s, the most famous artwork in the world that attracts millions of people a year, perhaps? What is the difference between Mona Lisa and her Muslim sister? Mona Lisa. She was looking at me. Yeah. She looks like she's looking at. Yeah. Look, you're onto something. You're onto something. And look, of course, this is generated by AI, right? But why is it that this attracts millions of people around the world to go to the Louvre in Paris? Yeah. Let me answer that, I'm joking. No, you're on the 100%. And this doesn't attract anyone. Like, you guys are like disappointed. Come on, it's really that bad.
Background, symbolism.
Background,
Thinking of the painter.
All this story and everything Sister Lauren just mentioned. Marketing as well, maybe, yes. But in terms of technicality, accuracy, composition, aesthetics, color codes, brushstrokes, texture, style, they're both almost similar. Puffin Bakshi is obviously wearing a hijab, and it's not exactly the same. But it all comes back to one component, and I believe this is something that AI can never take away. And that is that people are going to the Mona Lisa not just because of the art in and of itself, but because of the artist behind it, because of the man behind it. Leonardo himself, he was the one who painted that piece of art. His eyes directed the color, his fingers touched that, and that is what draws people to the art. And that's something that AI can never take away from us. Who made it? The human element. AI can never take that away. And that's one reason why we, as artists and content creators, are so essential to this realm. We can't just delegate or relegate the entire realm of art to AI, because it takes away that human element which makes art so captivating. We've spoken a lot about Bosnia today. I want to tell you something that I learned from Alija Izetbegović, one of the greatest Bosnian thinkers. He has a book, Islam Between East and West, and he goes into detail about what makes art art. And he says that art is something that cannot be captured in scientific terms. It cannot be something which is captured in material terms alone. Sure, art can explain the composition, the style, the frame, the texture, the way the light reflects off her face. Science and materialism can explain all of this, but it cannot explain why an artwork moves people, why it makes them feel something. Why is it that an artwork can bring someone to tears? Science can never explain it. It's not even a realm for science to enter into. Science, you should leave it at the door when it comes to this. This is something that he described as an irreducible gap, something that cannot be explained in scientific material terms. Rather, he calls it the soul, the spirit, the heart. As Muslims, we believe in the ruh. There is a metaphysical component that is tied directly to the artist himself, that he pours into that artwork, that makes a person on the other side feel something too. So, the proof is clear. Print the Mona Lisa 1,000 times in a way that's more technically accurate, better, more pristine, more scientific, as much as you want. It will never carry the same attraction, weight, and appeal as the original because of the artist himself. But not only who he was, but what was inside him. The intention that was inside him, that he wanted to manifest on that canvas, on that piece of art. The intention inside him that is poured into that piece of art, that transmits to the person, the viewer, the reception that I spoke about today, and makes them feel something too. This is it's amazing. That was a real work of art. It's actually called Leonardo painting the Mona Lisa. It's very interesting to see that. The fact that he was painting it, he was pouring his heart into it. He was pouring an intention into it that he would express on the physical artwork is what makes it so compelling, remarkable, and powerful, moving. And let's finish with the great Mimar Sinan, the great architect of the Ottoman Empire, who we spoke about today, who poured his intention into his art. He poured his heart into his art. And that's why you feel something. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you.